everyone who may be watching on the replay. My name is Jasmine Kylene. I'm a spiritual counselor. I'm a journalist, human being having a good time. And this is my morning mindfulness session with Outer Reach, which basically how these sessions go is we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the astrological weather. We are going to journal a little bit in relationship to what the astro weather is asking us to look at. And then we'll end with a little breathwork meditation. So if you are down for that, I'm so grateful. And if you want sort of like the summarized version of what's going on astrologically and you don't really want to sit through a whole class, you can find that on my Instagram because I go on live at Laya Luna TV. And yeah, and that's basically it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Venus conjunct Mars in Leo, which we love that for us. We'll talk about Chiron going retrograde, and we'll talk about this new moon in Cancer that's coming up. So I'm super excited. So first and foremost, wherever you are, I want to invite you to sort of settle in with a intentional breath. So stretching up the body first and foremost, if there's anything that has not been enriched with movement quite yet. Letting yourself get into that, moving the body, nourishing it. And when you're ready, you can meet me at your center while I pull up some music. There we go. Beautiful. It's the hair for me. Beautiful. Meeting me at your center and taking a deep breath in through the nose, filling up the chest and lungs completely. Grabbing hold of that breath. And sighing it out. One more time, breathing in fully through the nose, filling up the chest and lungs completely. Taking hold of that breath, sitting with it. And exhaling. And on this final breath, tapping into your clairsentience, I invite you to take in a scent either from your childhood or from any part of your life that brings you peace. What is it that you smell that brings you to a space of peace? Breathing in that scent completely. Holding on to the feeling that it brings you. And exhaling. One last time, actually, breathing in that scent of peace. And releasing. Letting your breath return to its own organic rhythm. I invite you to simply embrace some stillness, allowing yourself to fully embody the physical and present moment. Noticing any sounds, any sensations in your environment. Allowing your body to relax, your shoulders to drop. Taking notice of the texture of the seats or the bed or the floor that you're sitting on. Feeling the weight of gravity anchor you down. And the support of the earth beneath you. And as we move towards this new moon in Cancer, the height and the peak of feeling where we're at emotionally, I invite you to take some time to be intentional with recognizing where in your body you're holding any emotional weight, any emotional tension, bringing your awareness. And if you feel called to your hands there, it's behind the eyes for me today. And you can intuitively either massage the area or simply speak some affirmations to it, whatever feels the most right. Taking a couple moments Couple breaths. To not judge your emotion, but to simply notice it. When you feel ready, bringing your hands to heart center, I invite you to plant a seed of intention, whether it's for this morning, this session, but I think with this upcoming new moon in Cancer, setting an intention for this next lunar cycle of who you choose to be when you're emotionally empowered. Breathing into this heart space and sighing it out. We can begin to move into our practice together. Thank you so much for joining me, either live or on the replay or on YouTube as well. It's going everywhere, honey. I'm so grateful that you're open to spending this time with me and that we can discuss a little bit about what's going on. I have some exciting things, honestly. This is not, it's emotional stuff, but it's not, well, it can't be heavy. I don't know. There's some cosmic weather that is in the works. I'll say that much. So let me just pull up my notes and we'll refer to them. Beautiful. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the new moon in Cancer that'll be happening on Thursday. I'm super excited for it. It's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for manifestation, which I think we need and we deserve, because all of those retrogrades sort of forced us to be in a state of pause and reflection and reintegration and all of those things, which was important. I think we wouldn't be where we're at right now if we hadn't had that moment of stillness. However, I think we deserve to be able to feel empowered with our intentions, and we definitely are going to be feeling that way with this new moon in Cancer, so we'll talk about that. Also, we have Venus and Mars, both in the sign of Leo conjunct, which is a lot, and we'll talk about that, and Chiron retrograde, which is also a lot, and we'll definitely talk about that. I'm wondering which one to start with. I think we'll talk about the good. Everything is good, but we'll talk about, I think, the more easy stuff to deal with, which is this Venus and Mars, both in the sign of Leo, conjunct, which I know it's been a while since they've been conjunct, and I don't know how long it's been or if they've ever even been. I'm sure they have at some point, but being conjunct in the sign of Leo, this is hot and heavy stuff. So Venus ruling, the divine feminine and how we relate, how we sort of express ourselves through our own hearts and through our souls. And Mars, which is kind of like that divine masculine, our drive, our sex drive, our work drive. Both of those, like, sort of not polar opposite energies, but really balancing energies, being in the same sign together is a really empowering placement to be experiencing right now. So a way to utilize this energy is really just like coming back to this idea of like, who am I when I am fully confident and empowered and aware of my worth in relationship to who I am in my femininity and in my masculinity. Like, who am I when I have that big dick energy, but also who am I when I am like receptive to everything that I deserve to attract and experience, which I think is a really, really, really good place to be in, because I think like the most obvious obstacle that we have to overcome whenever we are stepping into a place of empowerment is our own selves and how we think about ourselves, how much we believe in ourselves, how much we nourish our potential, right? So this placement has everything to do with like, who am I when I believe in my potential? Before I even look at this like feedback loop of like, is everyone else honoring my potential? Am I honoring it? And with Venus and Leo, which I mean, you cannot tell a Leo anything. And that's my favorite thing about that sign. I think people can categorize it as, I think boisterous or ego-headed or whatever the case may be. And I think that there is such a beauty in something that is so important to be learned by the way that a Leo will carry themselves and the way that they will just understand their worth and not really, yes, they'll feed off of attention a lot and, definitely make sure that you're valuing yourself and that you are honoring your own worth, but just it's worth noting that it isn't something to question or place conditioning on. It's something that limitless and is understood. So this Venus and Mars and Leo is coming back to say, are you acting in accordance with the fact that you're the shit? That's really it, period. So like, I know so many people that are like shooting their shots right now, like hopping into other people's DMs. I know people who are like just for the first time getting on dating apps. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and go back on Hinge. And it's such a, and I'm so like, I'm not anti dating apps, but it's definitely not like my preferred way of meeting a person. But I think now is just a time to really, really, really step into what it means to like adorn yourself emotionally. Wait, I don't have this open, so I don't know. Wait, hold on. Okay, beautiful. Stepping into a place of assuredness with your worth. And yes, we're going to go through like all of the emotional aspects and what it means to step into a place of assuredness with your like emotional worth. But Venus and Mars, we can let this be surface level a little bit. It's much deeper than surface, but like let's play with the fact that like I'm hot, like I'm physically hot, and I'm going to make sure that I understand that when I'm fixing myself up and I'm adorning myself to move into the world physically. Like really just own this hot girl power. Hot boy power, hot non-binary power, own it. But otherwise, we have some other stuff going on that may drown out that energy a little bit because it is emotional. So we have this new moon in Cancer coming up this Thursday. I'm super excited about it. The first thing I want to say is that the full moon in Cancer was December 30th, 2020. So I'm sure, obviously, with that being so close to like the new year, I'm sure a lot of you guys set intentions for what it was that you wanted to experience this year, what you wanted to work on, who you wanted to be, what you wanted to manifest or release. So with this new moon in Cancer coming up, it's a perfect time to review like what were those intentions, what has come into fruition, what things have I watered, what things have I pivoted away from. Really just like let yourself reflect on like where was I December 30th? What did I want December 30th? And have I evolved? Have I, played less into it than I wanted to? Just see what you find there. There's no structure to follow. Just see where you're at in relationship to where you were in December 30th and let that pour into how you move forward for the rest of this year, right? So are there intentions that you want to revisit? Are you glad that you grew out of certain desires? Is that reminding you of the fact that like, oh, that is something that I want, just reflect. But otherwise, obviously we know Cancer being ruled by the moon. This is a transit that's really going to bring our emotional body up to the forefront. And if I'm not mistaken, yes, so the moon is opposing Pluto, which adds a layer to this that is a lot. So with the moon opposing Pluto, a lot of our subconscious emotions are going to come to the surface. So I think something to take away from that part of this whole thing is the fact that there may be emotions that you've been uncomfortable, or rather you've been negligent when it comes to facing them. If there are things, especially, there's so much to say. Cancer, aside from obviously ruling our emotional body, with Chiron coming into play the way that it is, there's an element of like emotions that stem from childhood that we may have not given the proper time to dissect, that may be coming up to the forefront, and we may not even recognize the fact that they stem from childhood because emotions can evolve and get clouded by perspective and conditioning and who we grow into. And so you probably don't even realize that like the root of that is when I was a kid. So know that like if any emotions you're not understanding are coming to the surface, do your best to connect, well, where does that stem from in relationship to my childhood? And know that Pluto, the moon, and Chiron working to some degree like in tandem has everything to do with sustainable healing. So definitely look to see where in your chart or which house is ruled by Aries, because that's where Chiron retrograde is going to be, and I'll talk more about that, but it'll sort of give you like a hyper focus. And I have my moon journal if you want me to check and see like where this new moon is passing for you as well. But I say all that to say that a lot of emotions are going to be at the forefront, and it's important to recognize your relationship with your emotions. Are there emotions that you haven't let yourself even have the time or the space to look at? Why is it? Why are you reluctant to face those emotions? And who are you when you're actually in a space where you're brave with your emotions, where you're vulnerable with your emotions? Yeah, vulnerability, I think, is a big thing too. Allowing vulnerability to be the glue that heals maybe some relationships, some conversations that you need to have, really allowing any like emotional armor that you have to be taken down. And also knowing that you may not have a choice. I think anytime we have a transit like this, there's going to be really little choice when it comes to how out loud we are emotionally. So if you have any moments within the next 2 weeks where you're like, I'm gonna have to cry this out loud, I'm gonna have to cry in public a little bit. I'm gonna have to tell someone that I don't usually tell my emotions to, what I'm feeling. Follow that, flow with that. Let's see what else I have written down. Decide who you are when you know you're the shit and be that. Okay, so that was about Venus and Mars, but a beautiful thing to go back to. So providing an opportunity with Moon opposing the Pluto to confront the past and let it go. So really confronting what emotions stem from past situations, attachment to past situations, and reflecting on the fact that like you can also actively choose to honor it, acknowledge it, and let it go. And that is going to pour into transformation. This is a really, really, really transformative period. I've been saying that. And I meant it every single time, but I'm sure there's no way you guys don't feel it. Like how I describe what I'm feeling right now is as if I'm like looking through glass and I'm seeing the version of myself that I am on the other side of that glass. And she is so empowered. She's so purposeful. She's so intentional. She's everything that I'm so excited to become, to the point where I'm so anxious. I'm like, I just want to already get there. I want to already be that person. And I'm realizing that like what's sort of making that transition slower is the fact that we have to get through this stuff first. Like we're in like the middle period, like the gray area in between who we are right now and who we are choosing to become. And this gray period is so, so, so important because it's how we build like the solid foundation for who we'll be when we stand in that, right? So like, and if you continue following me as I like break down the astral weather, I believe like probably later this year, it'll be the moment when we're like, oh my gosh, we're here. But for right now, especially with transit like these, especially with Chiron retrograde, it has everything to do with like, am I doing the work to make sure that once I get there, I'm staying there, I'm happy there, I'm authentic there. So let me know if that makes sense with how you're feeling as well, because I have some friends that are like, I see so clearly what life I'm choosing and I almost feel like I'm disconnected from it because yeah, we're still in like the period of like sort of shedding. I think above all else, it's not really once we arrive, I'm saying this is so convoluted. Once we arrive at the place where we feel like we are really anchored in self, it isn't that we've become anything different. It's rather that we've remembered who we've always been. So right now, this is an area and a space of like shedding and unlearning and undoing a lot of conditioning, undoing a lot of like self-imposed damage, and just like holding ourselves accountable for the ways that we haven't let ourselves feel empowered and working through that. So know that like if this astro weather ever gets overwhelming, it has everything to do with that. It's the fact that like we're shedding a lot. So this transformation will particularly with this lunar transit have everything to do with where we're at in the home and where we're at just in our emotional sphere. So like what is your relationship with emotion? Are you led by emotion? Are you led by logic? Are you uncomfortable being led logically? Are you uncomfortable being led emotionally? Finding out where you're at within those relationships and reflecting on how you can better them. Yes, let me see what else I have written down. If there are emotions you're uncomfortable feeling, this Cancer new moon will make you confront them for the sake of your emotional evolution, but also revolution, I'd say, which is very, very, very true. Powerful, powerful time for manifestation. I think that's a beautiful thing to come back to because this is, I feel like the first new moon in a while that isn't afflicted by any like major transit or an eclipse or anything like that. So really use this as a really, I keep saying really, just use this time to be intentional with setting intentions and manifestations, especially because of the fact that it's a water placement. I would say to do, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like the 2-cup method, but sort of like having, I'll share some resources for what it is, but it's a really powerful manifestation technique that you use water for. You'll use like 2 cups of water. With one representing sort of like your current reality and the other cup representing the desired reality or the highest possible timeline. And then like through it, you pour the water, you do a whole little ritual. And it's a really powerful way to manifest your way into the highest possible timeline, the highest possible reality. And if there's any time that I would say like, you should probably do that, it would be with this new moon in Cancer because of the fact that we have such a close and intimate relationship with water right now and our emotional body. So a little quantum leap side note, but otherwise, definitely set intentions, reflect on the intentions that you set December 30th, 2020, and see how that fuels the intentions that you want to set for the rest of this year. And yes, listen to your intuition. That's another thing. Your subconscious mind right now is on 100. So if you haven't been paying attention to your dreams, you've been missing out on some messages, but it's fine. Pay attention to them now. And know that whatever you're feeling intuitively right now is going to be amplified. So really making sure that you create some sort of intimacy, and however that looks like for you, with your intuitive compass, because of the fact that we have such a hyper focus on this like water sign, the moon, which rules our intuitive body, our subconscious mind. And it's also worth noting that now is a beautiful time to pour into how do I reprogram my subconscious mind. So like listening to subliminal messaging, like on YouTube, they'll have really beautiful ones where like if you want to reprogram your mind to step out of a scarcity mindset, or to, you know, step into more confidence with this Venus and Mars transit, darling. Really play those affirmations. Listen to Beautiful Chorus. They're an incredible collective that does really like beautiful affirmation music. But yeah, the subconscious mind is really fragile right now. Not fragile. It's what's the word that I'm looking for? It's, you can manipulate it quite easily right now. So listen to it, but also reprogram it to feed like the dialogue that you actually want to live life by. And yeah, and so just to touch on Chiron retrograde, I'm going to talk a lot more about this retrograde next week, because it's such an important one. But I just want to already mention the fact that it's going to be working alongside the energy we're stepping into right now, which is a very emotional season. And mind you, Leo season is going to be everything. I'm so excited for Leo season. Like, I feel like we're really going to be stepping into our confidence, our self-assuredness. But until we get there, there is some emotional weight that we're going to have to carry. But the Chiron retrograde, so Chiron being the asteroid that's known as a wounded healer, that sort of amplifies this idea that how we show up for others and how we heal others is much more difficult when we reflect that healing onto ourselves, right? So now we're probably going to be like directed towards looking at the ways that we you know, just our, it's, the thing is, it's in the sign of Aries, so it has everything to do, Aries is the sign of self, right? So right now we're really going to be looking at how does our external environment, the places, the people, the things that we do, what do we allow that to say about us? And how can we make sure that we are doing what we need to do to make sure that our external environment is actually saying something good about us, that it's reflecting our energy, that it's safe, that it's as sacred as we see ourselves, that we're in relationships that are actually fueling us, that we're doing jobs, that we are, you know, embarking on careers that are actually fulfilling us, and that we aren't playing roles that don't actually fit our like soul's body. Which is like one way to look at it. This retrograde really goes so deep. The thing is that Chiron houses our deepest wounds. The things that we like, it's almost our destiny to work through. So whatever is going to be coming up within the next month, honestly, July is going to be, well, July already is, to some degree, like a triggering month, but for the sake of your own evolution. So look at what's coming up right now emotionally, and look at the roles and situations and the choices that you can make to heal your way out of it. Yeah, because Cancer is going to have some emotional matters surface, and with Chiron being in retrograde, a lot of just inner trauma, childhood stuff, relationship with home and what you define home as, maternal figures first and foremost. I think maternal healing is kind of at the forefront more than any paternal healing. But I think the paternal aspect, especially with that full moon in Capricorn that we just had, is like, how can I father myself when I'm maybe dealing with maternal trauma, which I feel like is very, very, like, not everyone is going to relate to that, but I will say that it is part of like what's going on. And yeah, I'll talk way more about Chiron retrograde, but just know that it's going to be working in tandem with this, and I think it's going to bring up a lot of emotional weight that we probably need to look at for the sake of our own betterment. So with that being said, if there aren't any questions, let me know. We can get to journaling, which is, I'll come up with the second prompt, but the first prompt that I think is an obvious one to work on is, which emotions are asking to be felt right now? So I'll drop this in the chat and we can just write to it for a couple of moments, seeing what comes up, seeing how we feel. And yes, let me turn on. There we go. Mosquito in here. About 1 more minute. Beautiful. And of course, if anything comes up that you feel called to share, please, please do. I will say that a lot has been coming up for me. It's rejection for me. I have to feel, oh, child. How, oh, my queen. I didn't realize that your camera was on, my love. Yeah, rejection is something that I was forced to feel. I think last month, and I think it was really, really, really transformative for me to feel to feel my way through that. I will say I would actually advise you to take on this opportunity to build a relationship with how you affirm your own worth, because that is what I had to learn and take away from my relationship with rejection recently. And I came out of it much more, I think, confident. But like when I was in it, it sucked. So I want to validate that as well. And I'll share mine afterwards. Do you have any that you want to share, my love? So you came on camera.
Always.
Okay.
No, I love that. Rejection is what came up for me too. I said like the two fears from my past have been coming up, and it feels like they're maybe not as intense. They're just kind of coming, like you were saying, like coming to the surface again because they're not fully worked through.
Yeah.
Which I'm realizing it's like nothing is ever 100% fully worked through. That's what I learned through that whole retrograde.
Yes.
I said that my fear of abandonment and rejection were the two things that were coming up really intensely, and they're coming up in the, it's like interesting because I have to see like what form they're coming up in, and they're coming up in the form of jealousy and comparison. Because I always used to think like jealousy was just like, oh, you're a jealous person, but I'm like, no, that stems from something deeper. And then I'm realizing, oh shoot, that's my fear of abandonment and rejection. And like, where does that come from? Oh, like that was like my mother wound. And then you're like talking about this Chiron retrograde. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to go back to mother wound healing and like inner child healing.
I know, I feel bad.
On the side, like for a while, because I was like, oh, I'm feeling good. Like there's other stuff I want to focus on. But yeah.
I know. Oh, my love. I know you've been working on inner child healing for a good minute. And I know I will say the weather's pointing right back to it. And exactly what you're saying is exactly what this is. Like these sort of like inner traumatic wounds are going to take different shape right now. And it's going to kind of force us to like dissect it and figure out like, oh, this is actually this. But yeah, it's a really, really, really transformative period. So I will say that like being intentional with looking at it is good. But literally same. Oh my God, 100% same. It's been coming up for jealousy me as well. I also have just like all of these really uncomfortable emotions that I never want to look at, like guilt in random ways, different forms of shame. Also just like looking at the ways in which I'm selfish. I feel like I take a lot of pride in being selfish, right? Because that means that I'm like putting myself first, and that's something you should do. But I think like the shadow aspects of selfishness also tend to come up for me. And it's important to know that when we're looking at these emotions, especially right now in this period of healing, that we're not identifying as them, that we're not letting them drown us. Rather, we're looking at like where and why, and finding a form of integration. I think something I've also had to learn during this retrograde period is that like ridding yourself of something is never really going to happen, but like integrating it and making peace with it and not judging yourself for it and mirroring it with like your higher self is kind of, I think, the point. But the second thing I thought it would be a beautiful thing to work on, especially with this like Venus and Mars energy, is how do you place conditioning on your confidence, which is something I really need to write on as well. So we'll write on that for a couple more minutes. About one more minute. Wow, rejection and now body image. This is ooh, child. We'll talk about that. Hold on. All right. Finishing up any last sentiments. Yeah, same. Same. I will say how that's been showing up for me is that I don't typically compare myself to other people, but I compare myself to past versions of myself. And there was a version of myself, I think maybe, honestly, probably exactly a year ago that was very much like in her confidence, like physically, mentally, emotionally. And I'm doing everything that I can to almost like go back to being her. And something I've learned recently is that it's not really becoming or going back, but rather like fusing together like the beautiful parts of her with like the beautiful parts of me now. But know that literally same. Also, I place conditioning. I think I seek a lot of external validation. Like I'll feel hot all on my own, but until I like share the fact that I'm feeling hot and making sure that other people think that I feel hot, which I think is my Leo moon, which I just dragged before. Um, yeah, it's almost like if a tree falls in the forest, no one's there to hear it. Like if no one knew I was hot, was I ever hot? So I think I need to come back to defining my own self-worth and seeing how that makes it much more limitless. So and the same. Do you have anything you want to say? Once again, never any pressure.
I think for me, it was interesting because I was thinking about like, oh, anytime I felt like really truly confident, I feel like I'm my most genuine self. And I feel like I'm like walking in my highest self and like most divine power. But it's always been conditioned on like, it came up for me, like financial stability came up, was huge. That was huge. Like that was a huge one. And also I think that for a long time, my confidence wasn't put in my hands. So it was like you're saying, you know, like I would feel confident and I would always get like cut down by people who were like, oh no, like who would make me feel like the way I defined success, which came up a lot, success with equal confidence, but like the way I defined it wasn't the way that others defined it. So I was living in the way others define success. And therefore that's like where my confidence was like based on, you know?
Wow. Yeah. What a beautiful reflection, though, because I think what that boils down to is like, am I validating myself? Am I like abiding my life by my own definitions? I think that that's something that didn't even come up for me, but that is very, very relevant as well. I think that because we've been told to equate success with confidence, we've also been told to equate how we define success with like how society and other people define it. And that can be a fucking trap, can it?
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like when you were saying like, oh, we're still like shedding. Because I feel like a few weeks ago we were talking about this, like that shedding period and like how I told you, I like messaged you, I told you about the butterfly thing, which has come up several times since then.
Yes.
And I've been told like that's a shed, like you're coming out of this like cocoon. I got this tarot reading that's the whole thing. But I was like, oh, like a major theme has been shedding narratives that are not mine. And it's crazy to just like constantly be realizing and asking like, oh, wait, was that my definition of success or was that someone else's definition? Like, it's crazy.
It's so crazy. And you don't realize how much of what you think is just learned and conditioned. And that's why it's so insane because I'm like, especially I've been doing a lot of like goddess work and I'm like, the whole point of this is not to become anything, but rather to just like unlearn everything that isn't yours, to take off the weight of stuff and thoughts and opinions and perspectives that aren't fundamentally yours. And it's almost shocking how much you are made up of like what doesn't even come and stem from like you and your soul. So Same. Same. But you're doing so beautifully and intentionally. And I think that that's exactly what you're in right now. I think you're coming out of that chrysalis, queen. So go off. And then before we get into some solar plexus breath, the last prompt that I thought would also be really, really, really in alignment with this Cancer energy is, how do I need to mother myself right now? We'll journal on this for a couple minutes. It's a little intense. It's a little heavy. But the Cancer moon wants you to look at it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, music back. One more minute. Finishing up. I know that's probably a heavier one, so definitely revisit it later on. Or perhaps I think for the actual new moon, that'd be a beautiful thing to write on. And of course, as always, if there's anything anyone feels called to share, please do. It's more of the same thing for me. Just like self-defining my worth, making sure that I already am everything that I need to be, and that I'm also taking the steps towards fixing what doesn't align with that. So, yeah, good. Ooh, not that. If anyone has anything, no, good. Okay, perfect. Wow, we're a little bit later in time than we typically are, because I think it was honestly it's an emotional day. I think we had to talk more. So if anything, we'll save the solar breath maybe for Thursday, but we can just do a regular old, like, intention setting breath. So closing up our time together, which I'm so grateful that you've spent. And if you can stay, thank you. If you can't, thank you. But stretching out the body once again, like we did in the beginning. If there's anything that feels stuck, stagnant, or emotional, moving through that. Before coming back to your center. Taking a deep breath in through the nose, filling up the chest completely. And sighing that out. 2 more times, taking a deep breath in through the nose. And sighing that out. One last time, taking a deep breath in through the nose. And sighing that out. And coming into our body, allowing ourselves to relax. If there's any tension being held in the eyebrows and the forehead and the shoulders, letting those release. Feeling safe and held, not only by gravity, but by your divine team of guides, of angels, your higher self that is holding you, that is leading you, that is protecting you. Feeling your body encompass the universe. Knowing there is no separation. And in light of this Cancer transit, of this Chiron retrograde, I want you to bring into your awareness some of the emotions we've brought our attention to today. Some of the emotions that have shown up in our bodies, in our experiences, calling them by their name. And I invite you to visualize these emotions moving up and out and through you in a constant cycle. Grief, sadness, confidence and exuberance, anxiety, rejection, joy, and curiosity. Seeing all the different ways you felt and feel and will feel. Moving through you in a timeless loop, knowing that you are not these emotions, you are the anchored self that witnesses them. Not judging any emotion, not holding on to any emotion, not vilifying any or glorifying any. Simply noticing. And in this moment of stillness, before we move into our day and our week, we can set an intention for who we choose to be as our anchored self, as our own observer. Who are you outside of what you're feeling? Who are you when there is no conditioning placed on your worth? Who are you when you are limitless? See that person. And take a vow of commitment to that person. Taking a deep inhale and sighing that out. Coming back into the body whenever you feel called to. Beautiful. Well, I try to keep that as short as possible, but hopefully intentional. I adore you both so much, and to everyone who's watching the recording. It means the absolute world to me that you would ever take my voice into consideration. Let me stop